Now, meanwhile, the president today announcing he will not be punishing Saudi Arabia for its role in the murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. In a statement, the president argued that it's a national security issue, saying, quote, "We may never know all of the facts surrounding the murder of Mr. Jamal Khashoggi. In any case, our relationship is with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They have been a great ally in our very important fight against Iran. The United States intends to remain a steadfast partner of Saudi Arabia to ensure the interests of our country, Israel, and all other partners in the region." Critics were quick to jump on that, saying the president was putting money ahead of justice. And then on the South Lawn, the president himself pushed right back, saying that if we push the Saudis too hard, they could cancel business deals with the U.S. And then other nations would swoop right in. Watch.
It's a very complex situation. It's a shame, but it is what it is. Because it's America first for me. It's all about America first. We're not going to give up hundreds of billions of dollars in orders and let Russia, China, and everybody else have them. It's all about, for me, very simple. It's America first. Saudi Arabia, if we broke with them, I think your oil prices would go through the roof. I've kept them down. They've helped me keep them down. Right now we have low oil prices, or relatively. I'd like to see it go down even lower. But I think that it's a very simple equation for me. I'm about make America great again, and I'm about America first.
Well, now at least 4 Republican senators have called the president's rationale a betrayal to American values, and they're threatening to go around the president and sanction the Saudis themselves. So should the president have handled this differently, or is this just the way the world works? You can just hack up journalists who write mean things about you. Joining me now, former CIA analyst and host of the Buck Sexton Show. It is Buck Sexton. Welcome back, Buck.
Good to see you, Kennedy.
I've made no bones about the fact that I am not a fan of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I will never forgive them for what happened on 9/11, and I think this all of this nonsense from them is inexcusable. Of course, they're going to vigorously deny their involvement in the murder of a critical journalist. Having said that, they need us more than we need them. And saying that we are going to allow this kind of behavior, I think, shows weakness on the part of the administration.
Well, there's a lot of shades here, Kennedy.
Yeah.
One, I mean, the president said that this is vile and this is terrible and he doesn't support this, but he also went on at some length about what a good ally Saudi Arabia is, and this is where you get into the fun complex. Well, that's what I was going to say. The fun complexities of foreign policy. Saudi Arabia can be an ally, can also be a big pain. And you mentioned, by the way, 15 of the 19 hijackers, 9/11, came from Saudi Arabia, not representatives of the Saudi government, but there are also some people who raised some questions about what the Saudi government knew. The biggest exporter of terror in the world for the last, 30 or 40 years, probably the only one that's close is Iran. So there's a lot of problems with the Saudi regime, but there's a lot of problems with Pakistan and Russia and China, countries that engage in similarly awful behavior. It's just a question of it not being a journalist who has connections here in the States and in D.C. and was a green card holder. So it's more, there are plenty of reasons why people are paying close attention to this. I would just say, what is the acceptable? I mean, Trump says this is really bad. I didn't really like his waffling on, well, maybe they did it, maybe they didn't, but that's very Trumpian. What would all the critics who are completely jumping all over Trump with this think is an acceptable response?
Okay, but let me push back just a little bit, because if the president started waffling on his rhetoric about the wall and said, maybe we'll build the wall, maybe we won't, people who are fans of his immigration policies would be very upset by that. And it's also, it sort of counteracts some of the foreign policy that he laid out when he was running for president, which is it's tougher. It does put the country first, and it doesn't take nonsense from places that we have kowtowed to for several administrations. And Rand Paul had some funny tweets today. He wrote of the president's statement, I'm pretty sure the statement is Saudi Arabia first, not America first. I'm also pretty sure John Bolton wrote it. What do you think about that?
Well, actually, based on the syntax and the verbiage, I think that Trump actually wrote it, but I don't need to quibble with him on that one. And as to the response itself, okay, so Trump, could have been more forceful in his rhetoric, but this is where the cold, hard reality of the world does kick in. Are we going to adversely affect strategic national security and U.S. interests with Saudi Arabia in the region, economically, from a security standpoint? because of this one incident. There have been sanctions leveled against, I think, 17 individuals.
Well, we didn't do it for 9/11, so we have to start somewhere, don't we?
Well, I mean, you start to ask the question, why now? And Kennedy, the reality is now because Trump.
I think
it's
the
actually
answer is
not
because.
It's because Trump. I mean, because people view this as an opportunity to roll out the talking points about how Trump loves dictators, how he's soft on dictators, how he loves
I'm
despots.
not saying that at all. I'm just asking for consistency and putting freedom above all else. And the way Saudi Arabia behaves in general, and specifically here, it is antithetical to freedom.
Yeah, I wish the president was more forceful in what he said about this issue. But the truth is, if you're going to start talking about Saudi Arabia and what it does, I mean, they're hacking people's heads off with scimitars as a regular course of doing business in town squares in Riyadh. Like, this is a country that has tremendous problems and has for a long time.
Buck, you're kind of making my point for me, buddy.
Well, no, but this is what I'm saying is, you can go in that direction and push honestly, but I think a lot of the fervor around why now is because it's an opportunity. People are saying that Trump is now encouraging murder. I mean, when I say people, I mean columnists for the Washington Post, the New York Times. They're saying this is a green light. That's just crazy. I mean, this isn't ultimately Trump's fault. It's only in a minor way really Trump and America's problem. And I think that he's trying to balance a lot of competing interests here. That said, have we been servile to Saudi Arabia for a long time?
Yes.
Have the Saudis been getting a pass?
Yes.
Have the Saudis been exporting? Yes, absolutely. Why did it take until now? Oil.
Yeah, fine. Let's get off oil. Let's either extract the resources we need from this country and our real allies and stop propping up dictatorships like Russia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, who only exist because of their energy exports. But also, let's take this moment to be a little consistent. For those of us who have been standing up, very lonely voices saying what Saudi Arabia is doing, what Turkey is doing, these things are wrong. It's also wrong what Iran is doing. It's wrong what Russia is doing. And because these countries are trying to curry favor by making real estate investments over here or investing in the Clinton Foundation, none of it makes it right. It's all wrong. I was just hoping that this is the moment where we came together for some consistency.
Well, I mean, look, the Russians assassinate dissidents on soil, on UK soil, and the United Kingdom hasn't broken off all relations with the Russians, right? I mean, this is unfortunately a reality of dealing with some of these countries in the international arena. And I agree with all your criticisms about Saudi Arabia, but they were true 10 years ago. They've been true for a century, basically. I mean, they've been true for as long as we've cared about Saudi Arabia, which was when they discovered oil, by the way, in like the 19 teens or so.
It's like the Beverly Hillbillies in man dresses. We have to go, unfortunately, Buck Sexton. But
we're just getting started, Kennedy.
I know.
I was going to solve all the problems.
Warmed up. You always do. And I appreciate your insight because you know how the world works. And sometimes we have to keep an eye on those practicalities while still fighting for our ideals. I appreciate you, Buck Sexton.
I appreciate you. Good to see you.
Thank you.